my great honor and pleasure now to welcome Dr. James Murphy, Doctor of Dental Surgery, to the Cardington-Lincoln Alumni Hall of Fame on May 23rd, 2015.
Well, it's quite an honor to be up here with such esteemed inductees. It's been very impressive here. Now, I'm not going to be up here too long, just a few minutes. I know how it is to be in the audience. But I would like to make a couple of observations and offer an opinion. First, however, I want to acknowledge a certain teacher. When Evelyn told me she was going to nominate me, and when I realized she was serious, one of the first things that came to my mind was actually my 6th grade teacher, Samuel Cook. Mr. Cook was a very innovative teacher, and it was during that year that such things as the value of personal initiative, the value of responding to challenges in an eager and appropriate manner came to the fore, and much more. I've read that the 6th grade is an important year for a boy, and it certainly was a highlight year for me before the semi-dark ages of junior high. Fortunately, the sunlight came out again in high school. Now, I'm of the generation that graduated from Cardington from the mid-40s to the mid-60s, from the end of the Second World War to the buildup in Vietnam. So that is the period to which I refer, and my observation concerns the spatial group of teachers and administrators that were here at the school at that time. And I say spatial group, I base that statement in part on this. I spent 12 years in classrooms after the 12 years I spent here at Cardington. As you can imagine, I had from time to time some very fine teachers, professors. But I also had, during any calendar year, I'm sure, one or more who weren't. And at some point, reflecting on the high school experience, it occurred to me, I thought, you know, my goodness, they were all good. I don't have a negative thought about any of them. Now, I know perhaps not everyone would go that far, but I'll bet if an honest survey could be done, a lot would, and most of the rest would be real close. Now, that's very important and significant because it's during high school that most people gel. You may not be fully formed when you get your high school diploma, but you're pretty close. Education beyond high school in a lot of ways is largely fine-tuning. So the reality is that due to time and circumstance, most people will never have a group of people that are more influential to their long-term self than their high school teachers. Now, I'm just going to give you one example. You wouldn't know it looking at me, but I have a son who was the starting center on the Ohio State football team for several years. And in those days, if you were a parent, you could go right out on the practice field. You could wander from coaching group to coaching group as you wished. Now, don't try to do that today. Trying to get into Ohio State football practice today is like trying to get into CIA headquarters. But 15, 20 years ago, you could. I did. I was there at most all the practices. And as a result, I got to observe a lot of coaches up real close and for several years. And more, I appreciated more and more the fact that I got to play sports here at Cardington under Dennis Bell and had him as a teacher too. I mean, a class act if there ever was one. And what I remember is not so much his instructions as to how to throw a curveball or shoot a foul shot or catch a pass. No, what I remember most was the solidness of the man, the bearing, the stature, the dignity, the integrity. You know, when you're around people like that at that age. You don't articulate it then, you're probably at best just vaguely conscious of it, but you know there's something good there. There's something you like. There's something you'd like to have. There's something you'd like to be like. Solid people. And that's the type that were here during that period. Last year, Nelson Hack mentioned Nelda Akron. I agree. And I think of Faye Burr, Wilbur McAllister, Lyman Hurt, Mr. and Mrs. Patterson. You could go on and on and on. So that's my observation about a very special group of people during an important period of time. Now, my other observation, and this is the one that I think is exciting, at least somehow I seem to get excited about it more each year, and that's what's happened ever since, what's happening right now. I mean, we're talking about a school system here, an educational system that has not merely endured, but it has flourished and thrived. Now that's no sure thing, not by any stretch of the imagination. Most systems, be they educational, financial, political, whatever, tend not to endure, let alone flourish and thrive. Yet here at Cardington, it's happened. I mean, who could have imagined back then all these talented young students just streaming out of here, year after year, streaming out with all these scholarships and grants? It's quite remarkable, wonderful really. I think we tend to take it for granted. We shouldn't. It takes good teachers, good administrators, community support, and some smarts. I lived most of my adult life in the Columbus area, and I can tell you there were a lot of good schools when I was first there that aren't anymore, if they're even in existence. You've probably read about some of it. Now, I don't mean to imply there's no good schools in the system. Of course there are, but some that aren't anymore. My wife graduated from a fine high school at the time, not so much today. So before I give my opinion, I'd just like to take a quick moment here because we're very fortunate and commend, thank, and applaud some people that are all involved and have been involved in keeping all this good things going. The people that are usually up here, like Superintendent Brian Petrie, he's not here tonight. Gary Ebert's taught, Ron Pines, a former teacher, and he still coaches. Is Bob Matthews here? He's usually around somewhere. But anyway, a true pillar of the community. Could we just give them a hand? I really think, we're just extremely fortunate here at Cardington Lincoln. Now, I want to wind up with an opinion. This weekend, Memorial Day weekend, has much to do with our societal political system. And I've stated the truism that systems tend not to endure. A casual glance at history, for example, you don't have to be an expert, just a casual glance reveals with startling clarity, and I do mean startling clarity, the extreme vulnerability of political systems, especially in the last 2 centuries. It's actually kind of scary. And this is where Cardington comes in a good way, in my opinion. I'm a fan of the Midwest. I believe that it's communities like Morrow County, towns like Cardington, educational systems like Cardington Lincoln, that are the essential bulwark, the necessary fundamental fabric for our societal political system, our constitutional republic, that grand enterprise that Lincoln so eloquently and aptly described as the last best hope of mankind. To put it another way, I believe that it's communities like Morrow County that are the glue that keeps things from flying apart. I do. So, with that in mind, I am going to conclude by saying I've had a lot of nice things happen to me. Standing here under these circumstances is most certainly one of them. I mean, it truly is. It's an honor. It means more to me than I can adequately express. Some things that have happened that have been good, I had absolutely nothing to do with. And it all started 79 years ago, possibly to this month, when my mother and father made the decision to move to Cardington. Dad to start his medical practice, Mom to get involved in the community and raise a family. Wise decision. Very, very wise decision. Thank you. And surely my sister and brother and I have been the prime beneficiaries. Thank you so much.